jàmm réew mi moo gën ci réew mi wax ju bon ji day yàq réew mi jëf ju baax ji mooy def réew mi.
Greetings to the Gambia and Africa. Today marks the 31st day of the month of August 2019, and it is the first edition of the program, the Motivational platform, and it comes to you every Saturday, 8 p.m. at Senbians Magazine /Senbians TV. This program comes under the umbrella of the Pan-African Foundation called the Africa Philosophical Findings, tasked with the responsibility of
inspiring and motivating the current generation of young Africans in the actualization of their respective dreams and
preaching the message of peace and national unity, as well as
revitalizing the Africanization policy that speaks about good governance, social justice, democracy, human rights, and most importantly, the African unity.
On this platform, I will be your co-host, your co-presenter. I am Fatima Muloshi, together with Mr. Tony Miguel Howard. He's going to talk about Africa is Crying. So let's listen to him.
Thank you so dearly much. Before I proceed, let me use this medium to extend many thanks and profound honor to the authority of this media house, Senbians VIP Magazine /Senbians TV, for granting us an opportunity as a foundation, as a Pan-African foundation, to decentralize the work of the Africa Philosophical Findings in this part of the world. And a very big congratulations to the authority here, and greetings to everyone that is following us on social media. And most importantly, let me express many thanks and appreciation to the government people of this country for always providing me the opportunity to be at home. Then another great one for, should I say, a condolence one for the government people of the Gambia for the loss of their father of this democracy, Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, who died a few days ago and was laid at rest. We say sorry to the people of Gambia because he was one of the greatest Pan-Africanists who sat with 31 other head of states in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1963 and spoke about the need for African liberty. So he's the father of this nation. May his soul and the souls of all faithful departed rest in perfect peace. A very great respect also to Gina Bass of the Gambia, who just won the 200-meter race in Morocco yesterday after defeating the Ivorian Marie Talo to become the fastest woman on the face of this continent. Now, right away with tonight's discussion, I says, Africa is crying. When you do a philosophical tour on the continent of Africa, be it Liberia, be it Freetown, Sierra Leone, or the Gambia, or Comoros, Madagascar, all of the 54 nations of the continent of Africa, with the Southern Sahara included at 55, our problems are not different. Africa is crying. It's in the area of health, we are crying. It's in the area of governance, we are crying. It's in the area of peace and stability, we don't have it, we are crying. It's in the area of economic growth. We don't have it, we are crying. The continent is still shaking. The question now that comes to one's mind is that, why is Africa crying? Why is it that as a continent of people, in spite of the fact that we are naturally endowed with great human resource base, is it Nigeria, almost 2 million people, 200 million people, vastly endowed with great human resource base, with natural resources? Is it my own Liberia of at least 5 million people with the gold, the diamonds, and what have you? Is it Freetown, Sierra Leone, that has close to 55% of the entire world natural resources? Is it Congo that produce mineral resources that can be able to be very enough to produce some of the tough smartphones you see around the world? Is it the Gambia, a peaceful nation that I've described as a museum of peace in Africa? Almost all African nations keep shaking with the exception of very few. Now the question that comes to one's mind is that, what are some of the factors that are responsible for the tears of Africa? Why is it that a continent with so many young people rich in natural resources cries on a daily basis? And I want to speak to you that one of the key factors that gives birth to all other factors is the issue of governance. Bad governance in Africa is a result of the tears of Africa. Bad governance, a guy says, in Africa is a result of the pains, the trials and tribulations that Africa go through as a continent of people. How do we mean by bad governance? When we make our choices regarding leadership, we have problems. Selecting and electing our leaders becomes a problem. Even when we select and elect the trusted ones in our heart, once they must have assumed the position of leadership, they change and become different people. They become strangers to their own people. Why is Africa crying? One of the major factors is the broken spirits of patriotism. One of the reasons why the continent cry, because what? The broken spirits of patriotism. What do you mean by the broken spirit of patriotism? What is patriotism? Patriotism is the love for one's country. When we have the nation called the Gambia, a small country in West Africa, one of the smallest in Africa, in mainland Africa, this is the smallest nation. Less than 2 million people. Very easy to be developed, to be one of the most developed nations if we can hold together. But the factors that lead us to become a divided country, the factors that lead us to become a divided continent, is a broken spirit of patriotism. People have lost that spirit. They have lost the spirit of love for their respective nations. That's what I say is the Africanization policy. In one of my speeches in Liberia, that says the Africanization policy has been replaced by what I call the pocketization policy. People are now focused on the individual pockets, what can be able to enter into the pockets, and have forgotten the spirit of our nation building. If you were born and brought up in the Republic of the Gambia, it is your binding responsibility to ensure that you contribute to your own quota to nation building. In the absence of that, you are not far from being called a criminal to the state. You have a responsibility, because when we say that we find ourselves in a democratic system, then it becomes everyone's responsibility to ensure that the nation grows. Great African leaders sat in Ethiopia in 1963 and spoke about the need for African liberty. They spoke about the need for African unison. There was Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, and several other leaders, including your own son Dawda Karabajara, may his soul rest in perfect peace. These people fought for the liberation of Africa. But in our respective nations, we keep shaking, we keep trembling. Things are not happening the way they should go because of the broken spirit of patriotism. People no longer love their respective nation. They become so corrupt and they have forgotten the bigger picture. That it is not about me, it is not about Tony Mickey and Howard, it is not about Fatima Moloshi, it is not about Dudu Jallo, it is about the Republic of the Gambia, it is about the Republic of Liberia, it is about the Republic of Senegal. We need to put our nation first and put aside our individual interests. So the broken spirit of patriotism has resulted in Africa to cry as a continent on a daily basis. The next point is nepotism. Positions of leadership have been accorded and afforded to people not based on competence, but because I have a relationship with a particular person. So once I must have assumed power, be it the presidency, then I bring in my sister, I bring in my aunts, bring in my brothers, bring in relatives that are attached to me to become ministers, to become deputy ministers, to head government parastatals. That's wrong. If we elect and select people based on mediocrity, that is what a leadership that is based on the least qualified, then we do not expect to grow as a continent of people. That is one of the reasons why our continent struggle, because we have wrong people in good positions and good people in wrong positions, all based on the fact that I know him or she knows me. We've been friends, we're childhood friends, we went to school together before. That is not the way forward. That's why the continent continues to struggle. People who should assume position of leadership must be based on merit. The person must have the character. They must have the requisite character to justify their position. In the absence of that, you do not afford that person an opportunity to serve. If the person lacks the character, you cannot elect the person. You cannot select the person. You can't employ the person. And this is not limited to governance. It also extends to what the private sector. Employment opportunities must be afforded to people based on their academic qualification, not only the qualification, based on the character content, and they must also have the capacity to lead. The 3 C's have to be found. You must have the character, you must have the competence, you must have the capacity. But because of nepotism, our continent continues to struggle, continue to cry, because we have people that are assumed position of leadership not based on the qualifications, but based on the size of the pocket, based on the attachment to the person who is in position. And there is some wrong assumption about African leadership. In Africa, people strongly believe that leadership is about position. Leadership is not about position. It is about the accomplishment of results. When you are elected into public office, you are given responsibility to execute a particular function. You are given a mandate to serve your people. You are given a responsibility to do something differently. But based on the pocketization mentality that has outsmarted what I call the Africanization mentality, based on the fact that people have not considered the bigger picture, that this is not only about Tony Mick Howe, it is not only about me, it is about the Republic of Liberia, it is about the Republic of Senegal, it is about Port Louis, Mauritius, it is not about my private interest. Anytime Africans come to the realization that anytime you assume position of leadership, it is an opportunity to serve than to steal, then the continent will stop what? Crying. But in the absence of that, Africa will continue to what? Struggle. And the wrong assumption of leadership is another factor. People wrongly assume that once you must have elected an official into public office, it becomes its lone responsibility to ensure that the country grows. That is not it. Every individual citizen has a responsibility to the growth and development of the Gambia. Every individual citizen has a responsibility to the growth and development of Liberia. Tribalism, another factor. Look at a giant nation in Nigeria. Since 1965, from the days of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the first prime minister of that country, Nigeria has not been able to survive the issue of tribalism. Between the Igbos, the Hausa, the Yoruba, that have a very huge respect for Nigeria, but she has not been able to reconcile herself as a nation of people. That country has struggled and continues to struggle even up to today. A nation that is endowed with great people, qualified intelligentsia, produces some of the greatest people on the face of the planet. Chinua Achebe says in one of his books, a chick that will grow into a cock can be known at the very day it hatches on eggs. An Africa that is expected to compete with other civilization outside its shores starts with our younger generation right now. Like I normally say that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. If elders, if leaders in the past have made mistakes, now we, the current generation of young people, we need to change our mindset. We need to come to the realization that the growth and development of our respective nations depends on our shoulders, depend on our shoulders as young people. We do not need to assume position of leadership and say it is our time. This our time mentality has destroyed our continent. This our time mentality or my time mentality. They were there yesterday. So now I am the president. I have to collect what I can collect. If we do that, we cannot grow as a continent. Africa needs to stop crying. And the only way that Africa can stop crying is the potential of our young people being utilized. Look at my own country, Mama, Liberia. 32% of our females read and write. What happened to the 68%? Young girls from the ages of 15 to 24 can read and write. What happened to the 68%? 32% read and write their names. Then what happened to the 68%? Which means the country looks at the future with one eye. Any nation that is wanting to survive, any nation that is wanting to have a successful future for her generation must emphasize young people. And when I say young people, there must be greater emphasis on the females. They are the future leaders. Women are intelligent managers, providing a requisite opportunities. But based on merit, they must have the competence, they must have the qualification, they must have the capacity to serve. Because when you have someone who just had a mere qualification and lacks the character, the person becomes what? A thief at job site. If you also find somebody, a leader who has a character and lacks the qualification, he or she becomes what? A locust to the institution. They add no value at all. So what do we need to do? To employ people based on character, competence, and capacity. In the absence of that, we're going nowhere. Our leaders lack vision. That's why the continent cries. Look at what is happening in Cameroon. Paul Biya has been there over 30 years. But French-speaking Cameroonians have not been able to reconcile themselves. And you call that leadership? Look at Faure Iyadimam of Togo. his father had to reduce the age gap so that the son can be able to assume the position of the presidency. Women have to naked themselves in the street and cry and say, we don't need you to become our president anymore. That country continues to struggle. Look at the country called Central African Republic. Since the day of David Dacko up to Jean-Pierre Bokassa, one of the greatest dictators of Africa, that country has continued to struggle. You saw what happened in Rwanda in 1994 when the Hutus and the Tutsi killed themselves. A nation that produces some of the higher Christians of the world, which means they went to church on Sundays, they still left the church and tribalized themselves. They destroyed themselves, but since 1994, they have graduated from that level of tribal distractions and become one of the most economically stabilized nations. Why? Because they took a responsibility. And Paul Kagame says that until Africans learn to own their own problems, find their own solutions, they won't be able to write their own stories. Where am I saying? What am I saying? Africa, the dependency in nature is quite too huge. Until we can be able to remove ourselves from that shadow of dormancy, until we can be able to remove ourselves from that shadow of dependency syndrome, Africa will continue to cry. Any African leader that assumes the presidency, the next thing he or she does is to get on the aircraft, travel to the Western world to beg for loans. China invite 54 leaders on the continent of Africa. They get on the aircraft and travel to China to beg for billions to develop the respective nations. It's a shame and disgrace to our respective democracy. That's why the continent continues to struggle. Any nation that depends on another nation for survival is a standing invitation to prayer on. Your foreign policy will be compromised. Your national doctrine, which is the constitution, will be bent. You won't be able to recognize, you won't be able to respect your national doctrine because you are under the support of foreign investors. What do you need to do? Utilize the potential of your young people. Provide opportunity for young girls. Provide opportunity for young people who have the potential to become greater people in the nation. Sir Dawda Karabajara, he was there yesterday. Yeah, Jame came there yesterday. He's there today. He has a responsibility to his conscience. He has a responsibility to this country. Joseph Jacob Roberts was there for Liberia yesterday. You have the Stephen Allen Benson was there. The Dana B. Wanda was there. 24 leaders were there. Ambassador George Opomane is there today. You go to Comoros Island. Azali Ansumani is there today. He has a responsibility to the people of Comoros. Francesco of Machiavelli is there today. He has a responsibility to the people. And as Backroman was in Freetown, Sierra Leone yesterday, Julius Malambia is there today. He needs to understand the plight, the yearning and aspiration of his people if he expects Sierra Leone to stop crying. If Adam Abara expects the Gambia to stop crying, he must understand that he has a mandate to serve his people. If for a year, the man of Togo must understand that Togolese must benefit the natural cake, then he needs to respect the dictates of the presidency. Muhammad Buhari of Nigeria must understand that insurgency is destroying that country. Young girls are raped on a daily basis. People have been marginalized based on religion. Girls have been marginalized. They've been maltreated. They've been raped. They've been killed. Armed robbers, kidnappers all over the street. Corrupt practices all over the place. The continent struggles. And you can count the list go on and on. Africa must stop crying. And the easiest way forward is the proper optimization of the human resource capacity of our young people. Utilize the potential. Send them to school. Provide them scholarship opportunities. Once they get a position based on merit, do not marginalize them. Do not be tribalistic in your approach. Do not be regionalistic in your approach. If the person has the qualification and they deserve the position, give it to him or her without looking at the tribe. Don't say you are Mandinka, the next person is Wolof. Put aside your tribal distraction. Put aside your political difference. Look ahead for nation building. And then no nation has a right to discuss economic growth in the absence of political stability. That's the best way forward for the continent of Africa if we expect to stop crying as a continent and as a people. We'll stop here and we'll have a short break and we'll come back. Thank you.
wax jàmm réew mi moo gën ci réew mi wax ju bon ji day yàq réew mi jëf ju baax ji mooy def réew mi dëgg-dëgg yéen daal li wër na li ngay def man ko li ngay wax xam ko li ngay wéy xam ko li ngay wax xam ko li ngay def man ko li ngay wéy xam ko bu baax ni yu daal yaa may li gën wax